Hey, what's up there, everybody? Thanks for checking the video out today. I'm gonna go ahead and do a little bit more work on this boat that I bought. I did a couple upgrades. I was going to show you guys what I did. The original flasher, it's got a Hummingbird flasher on it, the original one that came on the boat, and it wasn't working. So I kind of figured it out and I got it to work. So I'm going to show you what I found and what I did to fix it. It's basically got a switch. It's an on and off switch and a gain control switch, like a potentiometer. It's all built into one. Not really sure if I could have got another one just like that because of the year. You know, this is, if you guys haven't seen the last video, go check it out. I'll leave a link in the description below. I just bought this boat about a week ago. It's a 1989 Ranger 333V dual console bass boat. And I bought it from the original owner. Anyway, go check the video out. I did a walk around. I kind of showed the boat a little bit. So basically two things that wasn't working on it. The Hummingbird flasher, which is basically a depth finder. That's all it is. And that's really all I want, is I want to know how deep the bottom is at the console when I'm driving. It does have a Hummingbird Helix 7 screen on the front that he put on it back in 2022. Down imaging, side imaging, GPS, the whole deal. So on the front of the boat, the tilt and trim switch does not work for the motor. The switch works on the motor and it works on the handheld controller, throttle for the motor, but it doesn't work on the front. So I basically checked it out and I can already see what the problem is. The switch, I checked continuity on the switch. It's a momentary switch up, momentary switch down. It does work, but it's acting up a little bit. So the power wire coming out of the switch, they had it plugged into the ground circuit back there instead of the power circuit. Anyway, I'm going to put a new switch on it. I don't want to take any chances. I have a feeling sometimes the motor would move up and down on its own, so they just basically unplugged the power and just threw it over there on the ground circuit. There's a block back there that you can plug in ground and power for whatever you want up there. I'm going to climb up in this boat and I'm going to show you what I've done so far here, and I'm going to show you how I actually fixed this old Hummingbird flasher. All right, let me show you what we got going on here. All right, so this is, first of all, this is the dual USB charger that I bought. I bought two of them. And it's got a digital display. And it also has an on and off switch. So you can actually turn it on, it'll start charging whatever you have plugged in, and it'll show the voltage of the battery, which is really cool. And if you want to keep stuff plugged in, you don't want to charge it, you can just turn it off. So I got that on there because I'm using this stick for my GoPro. This is the same stick that I had on my fishing kayak, and the actual mount I left on the kayak. I didn't want to take it off, and I just bought another one that came in. I went ahead and attached it, and I got this stick all set up. That way I can put the GoPro up there. I've got it facing the front of the boat, so I can be recording while I'm fishing, or I can turn it around and face the back of the boat if I'm fishing back there, if I have somebody else that is fishing back there. So this is pretty cool. I went ahead and put a shorter cable on it because I had a real long cable before. I put a shorter cable on it. Comes right down and plugs in. And you can just actually lock these in place or unlock them if I want to remove it. So that's pretty cool. So anyway, the flasher. So all the gauges on this thing are original, and the only thing that didn't work was a flasher. Bilge pumps work. It's got a light that works. Navigation, they work. All the navigation lights work. I mean, everything works on this thing, except the flasher. So I thought, well, let me check this thing out. So I got to checking, and the ground wire and the positive was going into, there's actually a block on the back that has power and ground going into it, and it will feed whatever you want on this dash for power and ground. Well, the power going in to the switch was good. The red wire was actually power going in. The green wire was power coming out. When it came out, it would go into the flasher. And then there was 3 other wires that came out of the flasher and went back to the switch. That's why there's actually 2 wiring harnesses here. Now, the way this thing worked is it's basically a dial that has a gain control on it. As you can see, it had off, and it would click in the off position, and then when you click it back to the right, it would click on, and then you could set the sensitivity as you turn this dial up for the flasher. So what I found was I had power going in, but when I would click this switch, it did not have power coming out of the orange wire. So I took this thing completely apart. It had these little tabs that were melted. I went ahead and I melted them, and I popped this cover off the back, and I was able to get this switch and pull it completely out. And it had 2 parts to it. It had a regular part that was a potentiometer, like a dial, that had the 3 wires going into that from the flasher. And then on the back of that potentiometer was another switch. It was basically the same. It was 2 switches in one. Well, the power would go into that switch and then come out of the switch, and it would click on and off. Well, it was broken inside. I had to be real careful pulling it all apart, and since it was broken inside and I couldn't get power coming out, I didn't even put that back together. I put the switch all back together so the potentiometer still works, but I didn't put the very back of that switch together that had power coming in and out. And that's what these 2 wires are for. I went ahead and cut the harness back, and I pulled these 2 wires out. That's the power wire going in. This is a power wire coming out. And there's also a ground that connects. That ground is still in there. So what I did is I just came out and I went up and I installed an on and off switch right here. That's all I did. It's just on and off. There's on and there's off. And I set it up to where it would still, you know, it'd be off in this position, on in that position. And when you turn it on, it's working. Off, it's not working. So, and this gain control switch still works. It works just fine. I can turn it on, I can turn that gain up, and you can see this thing really starts to work. Well, you know, the actual sender, I guess they would call this a transducer, just like on a fish finder, a digital screen. I can see it down in there. You can't see it, but it's a through hall sensor, and it's mounted down there. So it's actually picking up the concrete floor under us. And I mean, I thought that was really cool, because I was gonna buy another flasher, because you can get them really cheap, or I was just gonna get another fish finder, some sort of a display, maybe one to match the front, but I didn't want to spend that much money because, you know, those are kind of expensive, that one that's up there. So that's really cool that I got this thing working. I mean, that's cool. Everything on this dash works, and it's all original. So that is really awesome. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this switch. All I gotta do is just put it through this hole, tighten it up, and put the knob back on. So let me go ahead and get that set up, and I'll show you how this thing works. Let's turn this thing on, see how it works. Flip it on, see it's working, and then I can actually gain it turn it up, which it's not going to show really anymore because the depth is already shallow here. As you can see, it's right now it's at about 2.5 to 3 feet is what it's showing, and that's actually what we're at. Under the boat to the floor is right at about 3 feet. So if I turn it up, you can see it'll go all the way up and then it just stops. It's at about 4. And then it drops down to about 2.5. So that's pretty cool. I'm glad that's working. So now that makes everything on this dash work. All the lights work on the gauges. Fuel gauge works. Tilt and trim works. I mean everything. Everything works on this thing. That's awesome. All right, so I want to go ahead and continue on. I've got the switch panel pulled off the front of the boat, and I'm going to see what's going on with the tilt and trim on the front. Like this one works. The one on the motor works, but the one up front doesn't work. Well, we're going to move on to the front here. So as you can see, I went ahead and installed the dual voltmeter. This will display the battery voltage for each battery on the trolling motor. So this trolling motor is I can either run it on a 12 volt or 24 volt. And it's just done by the switch right here. Down would be 1 battery, 2 is 2 batteries, which I'll just run it on 2 batteries all the time. But since this trolling motor is so old, it doesn't really show me what the state of charge is for them 2 batteries. Now them batteries are in great shape. All 3 batteries on this boat are in great shape. It does have the 3-bank charger, onboard charger, and it hasn't been hooked up since I bought the boat, which has been a couple of weeks now. And those 2 batteries are exactly 12.9. I actually checked to make sure with my voltmeter here, and sure enough, they were both 12.9. So that's a good sign. It means both batteries are working good. They actually would be a little bit more than that fully charged. I think they're above 13 volts. So since I've been working on this boat, you know, I haven't had them plugged in. So I should be finishing up with this boat today with a few little mods that I'm doing, and then I'll be plugging them back in. So anyway, this is a pretty easy deal. I got these off of Amazon. They're really cheap, but they had great reviews and they work really well. Same company that makes the dual. You can get a single, dual, or whatever. The same company is the same company that made the dual USB port that I put over there with a digital display on it. So I didn't need any USB up here, so I just went with the dual digital display. So that's really cool. Now, the only thing I don't like about it is it doesn't have a power button to turn this on and off like the USB does. But it said that it really draws very, very, very little amperage or voltage. So I could just leave it the way it is, but honestly, I think what I want to do is I will unhook the ground cables off of the 2 batteries. When I do that, obviously these are not going to be on, and I'm probably going to have the ground cables on all 3 batteries unhooked while it's, you know, on the charger anyway. And they're easy to take on and off because of the wing nuts, you know. I'll show you how most boats are. They just have, instead of being hooked on this terminal, you know, it's just an eyelet with a wing nut. So they just come right off. Very easy. Not like you have to fight with a wrench or anything. And this is just a terminal block. It's a factory terminal block. There was one just like this under the dash. That's where I actually tapped into the power and ground for those USB ports up there. But there's 6 on the top and there's 6 on the bottom. The ones on the bottom, and you can use either one, it doesn't matter. The ones on the bottom are the power source, the ones on the top is the ground. And this wire and this black wire, this is a negative and this is a positive. These are the factory wires on this boat. And basically the bottom one is feeding into these 6 blocks. It's going to send battery voltage to all 6. The negative one is just the negative side of the battery. And then this positive and negative, this wire here is for the Hummingbird. This switch is not being used. It's just a on and off switch. It's not being used. I guess if I was to have a light, like a courtesy light up here, I could tap into that, and then the other one would go over here to the power side. And of course the light would be hooked to the ground side. But my front light, the bow light, actually has a courtesy light on the back side of it, and it faces down, so it lights up the whole floor. So I don't really need a courtesy light here. This switch here on the bottom that's actually for anchor and courtesy. Well, since there's no courtesy light here, we don't need courtesy. The other one's the anchor light. When you flip that on, in the back you have your big, long, tall, white light. That's when you're anchored or you're sitting still at night. That light has to be on. So you can control it up here as well as on the driver's instrument panel. Now this is the switch that I'm going to be replacing. This is this is trim up and trim down. It's a momentary switch. It stays in the middle, spring loaded, and it wasn't working up here. Well, this power lead, they had it plugged into the ground side, so it wasn't getting power to the switch. So I plugged it in and it works fine now. The only thing is I could tell the switch is a little weak. The switch is working fine, but when I checked it, I checked continuity between the center and this leg, and then I checked it again from this one to this leg with the wires unplugged, and I was getting some sort of continuity. You should read fully open between each leg when the switch is in the middle. And then of course when you flip the switch up, one leg is going to show all zeros if it has good connectivity, and then you switch from the center to the other leg and you flip the switch the other way and hold it, and it should read all zeros with good continuity, which it did. But when it was in the middle, it should be completely open, and it was showing some sort of continuity, which is not good. That's basically telling us that the switch is trying to make connection in the neutral position there. So that's why I bought a new one. So I'm going to show you real quick what to look out for. And the reason that I suspect that switch was not hooked up properly is because I think it was, at times it would start working on its own. It might have been trying to fight the tilt and trim up and down, or it might have just been going up on its own, down on its own, because that switch is trying to make connection when it's not supposed to. Plus I noticed the fuse, the fuse over here, the fuse box, which I've got the cover off, and I went through and I replaced every fuse. There was some fuses that was so old on there that I was having an issue with one of the fuses. Not it had a volt drop going through it because it was just an old fuse and it was corroded. So I replaced them all with new fuses. Well, there was one fuse that was replaced, a brand new 10 amp fuse, and that fuse was the one for the tilt and trim. So my guess is it probably popped the fuse because that switch was trying to, you know, have a power between both legs. Anyway, let me set this camera up and I want to just show you real quick what it's supposed to look like, and this is why I want to be changing the switch. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and turn the voltmeter on. You basically want to turn the voltmeter on to ohms. I know a lot of you guys may know how to work the voltmeter. A lot of guys don't know how to work the voltmeter. But that this little indicator right here, it means ohms. That's just continuity, right? So this is a new switch. It's a momentary switch. It stays in the middle at all times, and you can work it that way or that way. And you notice when I let go of it, it springs back into the center and shuts itself off. So right now it's in the center. Now if I just put, and it doesn't matter which lead, I can put the ground lead here, I can put it over here, it doesn't matter. Just showing continuity. When I put them two together, OL means open. It's an open circuit. There's no connectivity. So when I push this in one direction, now we're connected, all zeros. When I let go, it goes back open. On that switch, when I went like this, we had all zeros, it was good. But when I popped it in the middle, it did not show open. It showed some sort of continuity. The numbers were all over the board, but you should not have anything at all. So that tells me the contacts inside probably corroded. They were trying to make some connectivity there. All right, so we're gonna just take this one, put it on the other side, try the other side of the switch. See, same thing. It's open. Now it's closed. Open. That's what it's supposed to look like right there. And that switch was not doing that. So even though it's working fine, but that doesn't mean it's going to work all the time, especially in the center position. And I believe that's probably why they had it unhooked the way they did. So I'm going to go ahead and get that switch out. And anytime you do this, you want the battery unhooked. I'm gonna set this camera up right here. Anytime you do this, you want the battery unhooked. All right, so I got that side unhooked. Obviously this side here is on the different side of the boat. It's not even hooked up. All this power is on the cranking battery for the engine, and this side is on the trolling motor batteries only. But since I do have battery voltage here, I don't want to take any chances. I'm going to go unhook the batteries on the trolling motor. All right. Yeah, I just didn't want to take any chances, you know, with me messing around with this, accidentally touching a positive and negative over here and causing an issue with the battery. So the way this is, it just plugs in. It's just got 3 separate wires that plug in there. So I'm just gonna unplug them. And I do kind of want to remember the green wire goes on the top. This red with black stripe wire goes in the middle, which I know that's the power source. I'm not worried about that one. I know that one goes in the middle. But I want to make sure this one goes on the top and then the blue one goes on the bottom, because when I flip it up in the up position, I want the engine to go up. When I flip it down, I want it to go down. If I put this one on the bottom and the blue on the top, when I go up, the engine's going to go down instead of up. It'll just be reversed. I don't want to do that. So I'm going to just leave these just like that. This is not very tight. I'm going to take this off, pull it out. Man, that's an old switch. These are all original switches. That thing is, that's old. See, this switch says made in Mexico. And that's probably about right, because back in the late 80s, early 90s, a lot of stuff was made in Mexico. Nowadays, anything you buy says made in China. So I'm going to take this off. Let's see how this fits here. Should fit the same. I want to make sure I screw this on straight because, yeah, there it goes. If you try to force it on, you'll strip these threads out because they are, even though the little nut that I'm putting on is metal, the switch is plastic and it will strip them very easy. Some switches will have an actual nut, like a 7/16 or 1/2 inch. I kind of wish they had that, but they don't. So you gotta kind of use a pair of pliers here and try not to scratch anything, because this panel is in really good shape. And I don't want to over tighten it because it'll strip it. And that's pretty tight right there. That's not going to move. So I'm going to plug this blue one in on the bottom. Plug the red one on top. I'm sorry, the red one in the middle, that's power. And then the green one on top. Man, that switch, that feels so much better. That's the way it's supposed to be right there. Alright, I'm going to go hook the ground up to the starter battery, and we're going to give it a shot, see what it does. Oh yeah. Yep, going down, coming up. Man, that feels so much better. I could tell this switch was definitely on its way out. It was bad. A lot of corrosion in there. Because it was, sometimes you'd have to push it hard for it to work. This one, very easy. Awesome. All right, we're good to go. That's pretty much it. So now I am ready to put this back up in there. Let me go unhook the battery, and I want to get it put back in there, get the screws on it, and then I can put the pedal drive back in place. Went ahead and assembled everything back. 4 screws holding this in. No biggie. This has a little cover down here for the cables for the Hummingbird. And then this one's attached to the floor with one long screw here and one long screw on the other corner. And then these right here and one in this corner is just a rubber bumper. So when you go down, it'll hit it. That's pretty much it. So let me show you some of the other stuff that I've already finished on this boat, and I'm going to continue on. So I went ahead and put a step pad on this. There was no step pad on here. A lot of boats now, and for the last few years, they generally will come with a step pad, because whenever you back into the water, you unhook your boat, you know, you may push it off a little bit, or you may not have to push it off depending on how deep you go in the trailer. You usually step right here and you step up into the boat right here. Get up on in there, fire it up, back it off the trailer and dock it. That's pretty much it. Well, this one never had one, and you could see where there was a lot of scuff marks right here where all these years he's been stepping up into the boat, you know, once he's unhooking it. Or once he pulls it up on the trailer to pull it out of the water, he may do the same thing, step here to get out. It just depends. And then also you could see where they've been, I haven't waxed this part yet, but I'm gonna do a little polishing with the high speed, and then I wanna wax it because it's got some scratches right here. This is probably most likely where people are getting in and out of the boat once it's docked. You know, once you're on the dock, you could just step right into the boat, but generally the boat's going to be sitting low, and a lot of times you have to step here in order to step into the boat. So I am going to put this same material, I'm going to put me a piece here, and I'm going to put me a piece over here, probably right in here. That way we'll have a spot to get into the boat on both sides. Of course, that side we'll have to be careful not to step on the rods. So anytime that I dock the boat, I'm gonna try to dock the boat on this side so the rod and reels are not in the way, but sometimes you can't do that. So if that's the case, you know, at least we'll be able to step over the rods, use this chair to kind of hang on to if we have to, or whatever. And that's about it. I'm not sure if I'm gonna put a piece here or not. You know, this can get kind of slippery. Not much of a place to put it, but I might put a small piece right in here. We'll see how that holds up. I know they have there's companies that actually have steps that you can, you know, bolt to the side and the steps will come up. Some of them have handles on them. That's always good to have. But yeah, I'm getting really close to being done with the mods on this boat at this point. I went ahead and I've already finished this side of the trailer. It had an old skid tape. I pulled that off. I pulled the carpets. These carpets were really dirty. As you can see the difference. The carpet on the bunk boards are really white looking. Well, that's the way these were. So I went ahead and pulled these up. I vacuumed them and I cleaned them. I used all-purpose cleaner and a brush, brushed them on, brushed it in. I used a rag with a brush, got them all out, got them clean. I mean, they pretty much look, that's original carpet that came on this trailer. And heck, they look almost as good as the carpet that's in the boat. So I went ahead and glued them back on. You got to use, you know, really good stuff since that is in the water a lot. And the stuff to really use is this stuff right here. A lot of guys use this on the boat, inside the boat too. Made by DAP, it's Wellwood Contact Cement. This is their original formula. It dries fast. Make sure that both surfaces are clean. You brush this stuff on both surfaces, you let it tack up about 10-15 minutes, and then you just put everything together, and once it's dry, it dries really quick. It will not come up. And it's also heat resistant for the summertime, and it's water resistant when dry. Now, a lot of guys will use this in the boats. Now, this company makes an outdoor waterproof contact cement, and that's better to use, especially on the trailers, because they're in the water a lot. But you have to order it. That stuff is typically not in stock anywhere, and it's because you can get it. I mean, Amazon has it, Walmart. You can order that stuff and get it. There was a couple of hardware stores that had one or two in stock, but there wasn't nowhere around here. It was a good 45-minute ride, and I just picked that up locally. I'm gonna put it on, see how it holds up. If eventually it does come up, then I'll just order the other stuff and use it, because that stuff will not come up when it's wet. But that stuff's supposed to be good. It's waterproof or water resistant, it says. So anyway, I did that, and while the carpet was off, I used my high-speed buffer and I buffed out this whole fender because it was, you know, it was showing its age. And I buffed it all out, which now it looks really nice. I waxed it, and then I buffed out some scratches along the sides of the boat. There was a few little scratches here and there, all the way up the side of the boat. I didn't buff the whole side. I just did, you know, certain parts that had scratches. It helped in some places and some places it didn't, but you can't really see them. And then I waxed it. I got all that done. I went ahead and waxed the rest of the boat inside, including the windshields. I waxed all of this. I mean, pretty much every fiberglass or gel coat, whatever, that this boat has, everywhere. The only place I haven't done yet is I haven't done the bottom half of the boat on the other side yet, and I haven't done the trailer on the other side yet. That's what I'm doing today. I gotta put this sideboard back on. I got it laying right here. This one was also really white looking and dirty. And I cleaned it up the same way, and it's ready to go back on. It just bolts on. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that on. While I'm working on this side, I gotta move the boat. I gotta pull the trailer up. But I'm gonna go ahead and jack up this side of the trailer, put on jack stand. I'm gonna take that tire off, and I'm gonna check, make sure that the bearings are packed correctly, because he did put new hubs on it. I just want to make sure that they're done correctly. And I'm going to take the sticker off of that wheel, and then I'm going to clean the wheel up real good on the inside too, because there's a lot of old grease that has slung around the inside of that wheel. Because that's why he changed the hubs, because he probably didn't service the hubs for a long time, many years, and he noticed, he got back home one day and there was grease slung everywhere, and when he jacked it up, the wheel was loose. It ate up the bearings, and I'm hoping that the axle's good, because usually when you have an issue like that, it will eat up the axle. So that's another thing. I'm going to take that off. I'm going to probably go ahead and I'm going to pull the hub off. I'm going to check it. I'm going to make sure that the bearings are packed good, and I'm going to see what condition the axle is in. Hopefully I don't have to replace an axle, but I know when I pulled it here, it pulled good. When I got here, I checked, and the hubs wasn't hot at any way, because a lot of times they'll get hot if they're not lubricated properly or seated good, the bearings. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and then once I get done with that, I'm gonna get this thing shifted around so I can get to the other side of the boat, so I can do the trailer on that side and finish up on that side of the boat, and we'll be done with this project. All right, so let me get started on getting this wheel off. All right, we're going to continue on here. I went ahead and put on the side rail, got it back on, tightened all up, everything's all cleaned up nice, and I went ahead and put me a step pad back on. There was a step pad on there. It was pretty worn out, and it was actually one like this. It was just non-skid tape, and that's what I was going to do originally, but since I had some extra left over of that non-skid pad, I just thought it would be a little nicer, a little better look to have that on there. That looks pretty good, and I left the diamond groove in the same direction, front to back, as that one. If you notice, you can do it both ways. I just thought it would look better with the diamond going front to back, and I'm going to do the same here. So what I did on that one, once I got it prepped, you can use alcohol or whatever. You want to make sure you prep the area a little bit larger than what you're actually sticking to. Make sure you get all the, any residue or grease off. And I actually used a piece of this to make a template for that. And I already got another one cut for the other side. Then I used another piece for a template for this. I've already prepped it and cleaned a big area with rubbing alcohol. And then what I do is I'll get me a piece of tape. I've got it measured from the front of the boat to the back right here is about 4 feet. And I did the same on the other side. I want it to be, even on both sides. And then I'm just going to put a piece of tape here, and then I'm going to put a piece of tape here. And that's pretty much tells me exactly where to put it. That way you're not going to be off center. It's just easier once you stick this on. It sticks really good. So I'm just going to stick it on there, and it'll be good to go, just like I did that side. All right, so let me go ahead and cut a piece. I'm going to also use this. This is the size it's going to be, and I'm going to cut it with the diamonds going front to back. So I'm going to go ahead and set this camera up and I'm going to use this for a template, and I'm going to cut 3 pieces that size because I'm putting one here. I'm going to put one on that side of the boat, and then I'm going to put another one right about in there. That way we can, you know, step over that as well, and maybe use the seat as a something to hang on to when we're stepping over. I really don't want to put anything here because I don't want to step on this. You know, this is in great shape. It's foam under there. I don't want to be stepping on this and taking a chance on ripping any stitching. So this is only going to be basically to sit on. Definitely do not want to stand on it at all. So I'm not going to put anything here to step on. And I also figured this would be a good spot because this is locked in place right here. And once we step on this spot, we could actually grab a hold of this as leverage just to keep our balance. Between that and this seat, you'll be able to step right in and get in the boat. That side there, pretty much the same. You can really use this. This is really sturdy. You could actually, not that you want to put a lot of weight on it, but you could put a little bit of, grab a hold of it just a little bit, just to kind of steady yourself while you're getting in the boat, because you know the boat will rock a little bit getting in. And then of course we got the seat we can grab a hold of. So, all right, let me go ahead and get going. I'm going to show you how the easiest way to cut this. You can do it with a nice sharp pair of scissors, but it's better just to do it with a nice fresh blade, and it makes the slice really easy and even. So I'm going to get it set up and go ahead and cut 3 of them out and get started. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get this laid on there. It's not hard to do. It's a little tricky. You want to kind of hold it in place because sometimes as you're trying to cut the side of it, if you're not careful, you'll actually push it to the side while you're cutting it. So you got to keep an eye on it. So I'm going to do the back one first. To cover or to match my template, and that's pretty much it. Perfect. So let's go ahead and I'll reposition the camera right here, and we will go ahead and stick this down. Before I unpeel it, I'm just going to lay it on here. See how it looks. And it looks pretty good there, so I'm going to give that a shot. And of course, if you mess up, you can always peel it back up, cut another piece. This stuff will stick real easy. I barely touch it on there too, in case I got to lift it back up like that, because I have it a little bit further out. I want to have it dead center. Oh yeah, that looks good there. There we go. And I'm going to just push it down. They make rollers for this that you can actually roll it, but all you gotta do is just push it down. This stuff lays nice. It doesn't really get any air bubbles in it. This stuff's supposed to last a long time. I mean, it looks like, you know, what it's made out of, that it could rip easy, which I'm sure it can, but I've got a pretty decent sized roll. I could always replace it if I have to. But that's good. And that actually looks, to me, that just looks better than having, I mean, this is not bad if you had that on there. but I just think that gives it a little bit nicer look. Not bad. I like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead. I've already waxed this whole side, but from about here to here, I cleaned all the wax off with the alcohol. So I'm just going to go ahead and put me a little bit of wax back on both sides, a little bit around it, so I can get some protection on there. And that was it. I'm going to finish up. I'm going to go ahead and cut me 2 more pieces, and I'm going to put them on that side and get this all wrapped up so I can start working on the trailer on the other side. Well, I got this side all wrapped up. Got the got that step pad on there, of course. I went ahead and put 2 step pads on this side. Makes it look pretty clean, nice and safe to get on there. I could see where there was a lot of scratches from about here all the way to here, where they've been stepping on, stepping in the boat on this side. So I did some kind of hit it with my high speed and some compound. I did that on the whole boat wherever there were some scratches, and then I waxed everything. But there was a few scratches here. You can kind of see underneath. So that kind of covers that up a little bit. Through here looks pretty good. There was a little bit of scratches here. That covers it up good. The rest of it looks fine. So, and that'll also be a good stepping place to step in to the boat. I got this side all waxed up. That's why I got the spare tire off. I still got to clean the wheel and everything. I got the whole side waxed up, polished and waxed up. I got this side all polished up and waxed up. I've already I took these carpets off because they were pretty much coming unglued. I cleaned them and I've got them glued back down with the same glue that I showed you guys earlier. I put a step pad there. I went ahead and got the hubs done. This side was just a tad loose, not bad. I pulled it off, got the I got the bearings out, cleaned everything, repacked them. I think it had lithium grease in it. I don't think it even had wheel bearing grease. It seemed like it was like a lithium grease. Maybe it was a synthetic wheel bearing grease, but I used good old-fashioned wheel bearing grease with my bearing packer. I got that one all put back together. I got the sticker off the wheels. If you remember, the original stickers were still on the wheels. I had to use a heat gun to heat them up, to scrape them off, and then I got some brake clean, got all the glue off, cleaned the wheels up real good. The inside of the wheels were disgusting, full of old dried up grease. So that took a while to get all that grease off the inside of them wheels. I rebalanced them. I wanted to make sure they were balanced good. Put them back on. I haven't put the side rail on this side yet. I'm going to wait till tomorrow. I want to let this, I let the glue set up for a while before I stuck it because it is contact cement, but I want to make sure that it's nice and dry before I put that back on. I've got that all cleaned up, ready to go back on. I did this side. Now this hub here was really loose. It was really loose. And the reason why it was loose is because the axle was damaged a little bit. Like I'd mentioned, they do get damaged if you don't take care of them. So there was some burrs. I had to clean up some burrs. I was able to get it. I was able to fix it. It wasn't no big deal. I didn't have to get another axle. I was able to fix it where the bearings slide on good. They have good contact all the way around, inside and the outside bearing. I cleaned everything up, repacked them, put it all back together. So it's good to go, no play at all. And I also took the sticker off of that, cleaned the wheels up real good. Same thing, I had to get all the grease and everything off the back of the wheel. So that one's good to go. Yeah, that's pretty much it. That was kind of a challenge, I tell you. them wheels, man, they were nasty on the inside. So this is the spare. I still have to clean this one up. So I got the heat gun laying here. Get that sticker off. And this one was on the trailer at one time. This isn't nearly as bad. This has just got a little bit of grease. That won't be a big deal getting that off. So this must have just been, he must have had a flat or something at one time. Put that on there. And I tell you, I think that's about it. This thing's about ready to go. Once I get the side board back on, get the spare tire cleaned up, get it back on. I cleaned up some of the wiring up front for the lights. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and cut it off in this video. Appreciate you guys checking this thing out, and look for some more videos on this old school Ranger. It's coming along pretty good. It looks really nice. I'm really happy with the way it's turned out so far. So anyway, appreciate you guys tagging along with this little project, and I'll see you sometime soon. You guys have a good one, and we'll catch you on the next video.